Hey guys, welcome to a segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. This is your host, DJ Joe, coming to you live. And we know this is a little late because I really want to do an NBA playoffs preview, but been a lot of busy with Easter and all that. But I'm finally here. And unfortunately, yes, I'm gonna give out what my preview was, my predictions. So let's start in the Western Conference. So the Suns against the Pels. I really had the Suns in five because I thought the Pels can steal one game, and so I really thought the Ingrams, that CJ McCollum can step it up. Also, Jonas Valanciunas. So, guys, I'm gonna preview what my predictions are, and I'll recap how it's going on now. So, I had the Suns in five against the Pels, the Mavericks against the Jazz, and everyone knew how Jason Kidd played Luka Doncic 40 minutes in the final game of the regular season, and that was very stupid from the coach because now it's costing Luka Doncic, and he's expected to return either game four or even game three because right now he's doubtful for game three. But I really think he'll come back for game five. But even before all of that, I still had the Mavericks winning in six games. The Golden State Warriors are playing the Denver Nuggets. I had the Golden State Warriors in six games because they just have the better matchup. Memphis and Minnesota, I really thought that the Grizzlies could blow this out in six. In the Eastern Conference, I had the Miami Heat beating the Hawks in six. Sixers and Raps, I really thought the Raptors could get the matchup, and I had Raps in seven. Milwaukee and the Bulls, I had the Bucks in seven, and the Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets, and I had the Brooklyn Nets in five games. So let's go back to the Suns and Pels. So the Suns and Pels play tomorrow night. It will be game three tomorrow in New Orleans. And this is bad news because D Books, one of the best players in the league today, one of the best player on the Suns team, and it's unfortunate that he's going to miss about 2 to 3 weeks. But I expect him to for sure miss the first round and probably come back in late second if it's needed. But because for sure, if they play the Dallas Mavericks or the Jazz, they need that help. But I think for the Pels, with how Jonas Valanciunas played in the first game, how Ben Ingram played in game two, how everyone did their role, even if they're not a superstar, they played real well in game two. And for the Suns, they need more Chris Paul. And I know that joke with the referee, how with Foster refereeing, the Chris Paul lost 14 straight playoff games. But let's not take that into consideration because that doesn't mean anything. But we'll talk about referees when we get to the Sixers and Raptors. But now with this, I think the Suns still can win this, and I can still think the Suns can win this in six games. Because game three is going to be a huge game for the Pels and the Suns, but I think it's a must wins for the Pels because they want to just steal back home advantage. So expect tomorrow night Ben Ingram, McCollum, and Jonas Valanciunas to play to have a great start, especially they'll be home. And for Zion Williamson, if Zion can return, I don't know if he'll return this round, but if he actually does return, I got the Pels winning the Suns even without D Bucks. But we'll see on what's gonna happen next. The Dallas Mavericks play the Utah Jazz. And I like this matchup. It's probably like close to even in regards to how both teams play, but as in superstars, obviously it's Jazz. But the Jazz, the dessert was right there given to them, and the Jazz weren't that hungry, so that's why they lost game two, and they should have took advantage. But I think that one of the players for the Mavericks who haven't been playing well is Spencer Dinwiddie. But the one player that's been a huge impact for the Dallas Mavericks, not just this season or this playoffs, but at the end of last season, is backup point guard Jaylen Brunson, who is a nice player to watch. He's been playing big minutes for the Mavericks. He's been playing big minutes, and he had a big 40-point outing in game two in Utah, and that was a huge game. And expect him to overload the Mavericks as well. But I expect Jazz to change the game plan, which gives a chance to Spencer Dinwiddie to make a statement for game three. And that game three is happening tonight on NBA TV. Make sure to tune in that. And right now, Doncic is still doubtful for tonight, but I don't think he is playing tonight because if he was, I would have known. But expect him to maybe play game four. But if the Mavericks win tonight, I don't feel that the Mavs should rush Doncic, but we'll see what's going to happen. So next we got the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. Right now the Warriors are up 2-0. And this is was always going to be a no-brainer because the Golden State Warriors has been always having the Denver Nuggets numbers. That's why it's strengths in numbers, baby. That's what the Golden State Warriors are. But I think the Warriors have I think the matchup is just so horrible for the Nuggets because the only player that the Denver have interrelate to matchups and the only matchups the Nuggets are winning right now is the Joker, the nominee, the defending MVP, and he might win the MVP, but I don't think so. But probably, but this matchup is so bad because without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr., the Denver Nuggets are just not good enough. And I know the Denver Nuggets has had big wins this season, and it's just about Nikola Joker, and I think it's too much of a load for Nikola Jokic to come back from because the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson is getting close to the form that we're used to be comes like used to see. And game three will be tonight as well on NBA on TNT. Make sure to tune in that one. But the Golden State Warriors is just Clay's back in his form. Draymond Green is slowly coming back the way he was playing at the beginning of the season. And Steph Curry he's expected to start tonight and if he doesn't start, he's expected to play big minutes. And I think they don't need to rush Steph Curry, but you also don't want to give the Denver Nuggets chance to come back in this because the Denver Nuggets, you know what happened last season. They came back from the Jazz, from the Clips. So don't give the Denver Nuggets chance. And let's move on. So the Memphis Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. And I think this matchup is also close to the same thing. Because for the Grizz, you got Ja, but then you got a bunch of players. They're not scrubs, but they're role players. But I don't think they got like Jaren Jackson Jr. might be good defensively, but offensively, he's not a huge impact. And I still feel the Grizzlies, even though they won a lot of games, more than 50 games, I don't think they're still a contending team, even being a second seed. And this is no hate on John Morant. This is not hate on Canadian Marshawn Brooks. It's no hate. It's just they're not that good just yet for playoffs. And playoffs, it's all about having great players who can get it done. And I know they blew up the Timberwolves in game 2, but I don't think the Timberwolves are not going to play the way they play because I still think even if a 7 seed, standings don't matter, but I think the Timberwolves just have the better veteran presence. They have better players that can get it done on any night. Because for the Timberwolves, you can go D'Lo can go off any night. Edwards can go off any night. Patrick Beverly, not Beverly can go off, but he plays good defensively. And they got Carl Anthony Towns who can go off at any night. But for the Grizz, the only player that could possibly go off is Ja Morant. All these other players, and no disrespect to Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr., but they just don't have that it factor, which that can go off at any moment. And this is what hurting them. And I still think the Grizz should have got someone from the trade deadline because right now, I don't think so. Maybe they can beat this team, this Minnesota team, but I don't think they match up with the other teams. But that's it for the Western Conference. And for the Eastern Conference, so the Miami Heat are up on the Hawks 2-0, and they play game 3 tomorrow in Atlanta, and that will be on ESPN. And I think the Hawks need, and I think Clint Capella is a huge loss for the Hawks, but I still think that even Trey Young had a great game too. But the Hawks defensively played better, but you cannot let Jimmy Butler score 45. It just cannot happen. So I think defensively, even without Capella, I still think they can beat this Miami Heat team because it was only Jimmy Butler playing. All the other players, yeah, they shot here and there, but Jimmy Butler was the only one that was getting it done on both ends of the floor. But the Hawks are not a eighth seeded team just like that. Yes, they beat the they beat the Lamelo's team, but that's not the only reason. Trey Young is top 5 in scoring, top 5 in assists, in 3-point shooting percentage, and Jason Collins need to play much better and need to take over because Clint Capella is out and Jason Collins just came back from injury. But we need more from not just Trey Young because Trey Young did had a disgusting game 1 that was horrible. And obviously game 2 he stepped up big time, but it wasn't enough as they lost to the Miami Heat. So expect the Hawks to come out firing. And for the Miami Heat, they should continue what they've been doing is running through the pick and roll with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. And Bam hasn't had a didn't have a great game in game 2, but expect him to be more into aggressive into the offense for game 3. Next, we're gonna talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls. And before we talk about game 2, I think losing Chris Middleton with the injury is gonna be tough to swallow for the Bucks because even with Chris Middleton, even though they won game 1, that wasn't a great game by the Bucks because they blew a huge lead. The Bulls actually took a lead in game 1, and the Bucks won at the end. But I don't think the Bucks are playing like a championship team, like a defending championship team. They need to play better, and I don't know why Chris Middleton took like 2 shots in the first period. That is not the way it's supposed to be. And we need more from Drew Holiday. We need more from, and I understand Bobby Portis got injured in game 2, but we just need more from these guys. And I know Giannis had 30 and 12, but you're not going to win having 33 and 12. You're a 2-time MVP. You cannot just score 33 points and grab 12 boards or have 9 assists. No, you gotta go more. And I know DeRozan was on fire, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're at home in game 2 playing a 6-seeded Bulls who was like 0-16 against division rivals. They were like 1-18 against teams over 500. So I think they should have took advantage of that, but the Bucks are not playing like a championship team. I'm sorry, but that's not the way you play. That's not the way you come a year after winning the title. So I think the Bucks need to play better in game 3 because now they have to because Chris Middleton might not even return for game 3 and might not even return for this couple rounds. So we don't know what's gonna happen as he has to make some tests for his MRI. So we're gonna see about that. But this is a game 3 is going to be a big game by Giannis and Drew Holiday because for sure Chris Middleton will not suit up for game 3, which is tomorrow on ABC. So we need more from Giannis Antetokounmpo. We need more from Drew Holiday and the other guys because the other guys, the Connaughtons, the Portis, the Allens, did not show up in any of the games. And for the Bulls, sky's the limit. The Bulls need to go back on how they played in game 2, how they played in the second half in game 1, because you saw how DeRozan was killing it. And I think they need to run through DeMar and have Vooch make Giannis guard the ball handler. Because Giannis, if you watch the game last night, every time Nikola Vucevic sets a screen for the defender, which is Giannis most of the time, but Giannis, when he switches, he's not going to guard up Giannis Antetokounmpo up top. Because with Portis injured, with Middleton gone, and Brook Lopez is not a rebounding big anymore. So I think Giannis needs to step up because Vooch had the time of his life behind the arc in game 2. And overall, everyone played well for the Bulls. Patrick Williams, Kobe White, Vooch, Zach Levine. Obviously, DeRozan scored 41. And the Bulls almost lost that game, but DeRozan was on fire and they kept going to them. And as they say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So the Bulls will have some huge jump because they will be at the United Center. They will be in the playoffs for the first time since Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose was on that team, and Wayne Wade and Rondo. That's the last time they made the playoffs for the Bulls. And I think the Bulls are gonna play good. I think they will win game 3 and game 4. The way they've been playing in game 1 and in game 2, especially on ABC on Friday night in Chicago, is gonna be a nice game to see. But I got the Bulls winning these home games. But Giannis just gotta make a statement and show you're the 2-time MVP or you're the 3-time MVP. You're the best player in the league. You got to show it. But playing the way your team played last game when you couldn't take over on both ends of the floor, that's where you will not become a great player. So that's why Giannis need to play defensively and offensively 10 times the way he played in game 2. Next, we got the Boston Celtics and the struggling Brooklyn Nets. So for the Celtics, one thing we've got to mention is Marcus Smart. Congratulations, Marcus Smart. You know what? Even though I hate Marcus Smart because the way he plays, but the way he plays is a good thing because he plays great defensively. And as the Celtics up 2-0 going to Brooklyn, and with Kyrie struggling from the floor, both ends, with Kevin Durant struggling to hit shots. I think the Celtics have this in the bag, and Kyrie needs to have a big game in game three. And so did Kevin Durant. But because this is all about Kyrie, with all the fans and all that shenanigans that happened in the first couple of games in Boston, I think Kyrie needs to stop like worrying about what fans are saying and stop with all that drama stuff and just play basketball because that's hitting Kyrie Irving. It's bothering Kyrie. But Kyrie needs to step up like a man and just ignore all that talk outside and just play basketball. Because this is game three. This is going to be a must win for the Nets because you don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. And with we'll talk about Ben Simmons in just a moment, but KD and Kyrie need to play much better. And you saw how Dragic had a huge game, how Brown had his playoff career high, and but that all went to waste because Kyrie did not do nothing. KD was struggling. And when you're double, triple teaming KD, you should have Kyrie having a great game. But Kyrie was not aggressive in the first half, and that which cost him late in the fourth, and just so much turnovers. The Nets need to take care of the ball much and better. But that's good news for the Nets because Ben Simmons is expected to make his Brooklyn Nets debut. His first time he'll be playing in a game since last year. Garbage game 7 in round 2 gets the Hawks. And that will be a huge plus because Ben Simmons is a monster defensively. And that way, Ben Simmons can handle the ball and let KD and Kyrie run through screens, cut, and all that plays that they can run. That's what it's going to be a huge jump. And I wish Simmons could play for game three, but they never said that he was never going to play game three. As Steve Nash said, it's all about Ben Simmons. He will decide. And for the Celtics, oof, they've been playing well. And the thing that no one's talking about, even though Celtics won two, is how Jason Tatum playmaking skills were put to the test. He had 8 assists in game one. He had 10 assists in game two. And Jaylen Brown take over in the second half. So I think for the Celtics, you haven't seen Tatum go off just yet. Yes, he had a big game in game one, but I think the Celtics could steal this game three and finish the Nets. But it's all about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and Williams was having a great game off the bench. And I think the Nets need to pay attention because that bench for the Nets when they had that huge run late in the third and most of the fourth would cost the Nets the game. So I think the Celtics need to continue what they're doing, and for the Nets, they need to stop turning over the ball. And now we're gonna talk about the series that I've been watching every playoff games, but especially this one where the Raptors are down 0-3 to my Sixers, and these are my teams. Obviously, I'm cheering for the hometown team, the Raptors, but for the Sixers, that's my team. But it's just the playoffs is just about playoffs is not just about refs because this how Embiid has been playing. Yeah, he's been beasting. He hit that huge shot in game three. But game one, the guy shot 5 for 50, right? And wasn't that great. But if you erase Joel Embiid's free throws, game one, game two, game three, he would average 18 points a game. So I think it's just There's too many ticky-tack fouls, and I know Raptors are reaching and are not playing well, but I think there's too much fouls being called, and the refs have been picking because literally Embiid is close to averaging more free throws than the Toronto Raptors. And I know James Harden is not having the playoff that everyone want him to have, but because they've been playing great D on James Harden. And but Joel Embiid, I know everyone's saying, "Oh, he's MVP, he's beasting." He is the MVP. He is beasting. But the fouls you saw last night when Fred Van Fleet 6'2", like what is he, 160 pounds, put a hand on Embiid, and Embiid 7 foot 260 pounds fell off and flew, and you call that a foul? And there was times where Fred VanVleet got hacked, Siakam got hacked, Achua, Trent, and there was a lot of just calls where at the beginning, well, the Raptors were getting them calls, but it doesn't matter what the first half. It's all about the fourth quarter and the fouls that the refs were calling against the Raptors were just so disrespectful because it's all about every time MB drives, it's a foul on every time. And there was a lot of time where the Sixers were driving in the lane and it was getting foul. Game two, that was just a big mess. Game one as well, but game two, Joel Embiid had 13 free throws in the first quarter. So I think the refs need to start treating the Raptors fair. But that won't change the way the things I'm gonna say because the Raptors are not playing the way they've been playing all season long. And yes, Game Four is tomorrow on Saturday afternoon in Toronto on TNT. But Fred Van Fleet did not have a great game. He wasn't that aggressive last night. Pascal Siakam had 0 points in the second half in overtime. Like, and yes, they don't have Scotty Barnes, and I know that Barnes will play in a must-win game four, and I think the Raptors will win game four, and that will maybe give them a jump to maybe steal game five, win game six, and force a game seven. But that's a long run because Pascal Siakam did play well in game one and game two stats wise. Fred Van Fleet played bad in game one, played bad in game three. Game two, first half, amazing, but second half, trash. Like Fred Van Fleet and Pascal Siakam need to play much, much better because they're not going to win game four without Pascal and Freddie. And Gary Trent he stepped up in game three, but it wasn't enough. And I think Barnes returning, I think he could help with the Embiid and the Harden pick and roll. So I think the Barnes returning will be a huge jump. But I expect the Raptors to win game four for the fans. But I don't see I don't see them not. I see them losing as well because it's all about Siakam and Fred VanVleet. Everyone needs to play their role. And for the Sixers, Maxi have been playing a wonderful playoff, and he needs to continue if they want to sweep the Raptors. But Embiid's been doing his thing, but even though Embiid's my favorite player, I still think just with fairness, I think Embiid has been getting a lot of calls when it should have been not fouls. But we'll see what's going to happen in game four. But guys, that's it about my plus preview and the recap so far. Tune in tomorrow. We'll do a recap of tonight. As you guys all know, uh, the games that are happening tonight. The Timberwolves are playing the Grizzlies, game three. Game three as well, the Mavericks and the Jazz. And the last game of the night will be the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. But guys, thanks for tuning in to the segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. This is your host, DJ Joe, and make sure to like and subscribe down there. Uh, Share on YouTube as we're close to 400 subs. You can follow us on Twitter. We got our boy Ray Lundquist running our Twitter feed, and we also got Scott running our Instagram feed. So thanks for them for the help, but thanks for all my supporters. And you can always donate to the GoFundMe page. Uh, we always would like to use that extra cash for a podcast to get better equipment and better futures for our podcast. And you can also get our merch. The link will also be in the description. And thanks for tuning into this segment of the Grind Never Saw podcast. This is your host, DJ Joe, and have yourself a good night and happy late Easter. Mamba